Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Gooner Ramble. I am your host, Jasper, and with me tonight is James. How's it going, mate?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, mate. I didn't have any beers because I haven't been very well this week. And obviously I thought, we could have been recording yesterday and some other stuff, but got up early, watched the parade. Absolutely buzzing. Still buzzing. It's fantastic.
Me too, mate. Me too. And also we got regular Clive from the Gunners Town blog. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing good, and remember, James, we don't actually care how you're feeling. It's all about football.
Yeah, a bit too much information there, James. Remember that next time.
Will do.
So, you wait 9 years for a pot, and then two come along at once. Fantastic. I'm going to start right from the very, very, very beginning. So, Clive, what was your feeling coming into the match? Did you have a prediction for the scoreline? Were you scared about this game, or were you quietly confident?
I mean, I was probably all of those things, right? I was probably quietly confident while being scared. For sure, I did feel that the sort of personality of Tim Sherwood would mean that he would definitely play us. And by that I mean he would definitely try to attack us and play football with us. Unlike Swansea and unlike other teams recently at home that didn't play us, I'm including Chelsea in that. And I thought if he did play us, we've got a great chance to split into spaces. So I was sort of confident. Of course, on the day of the game, when you wake up and you think about football, you're thinking about the worst case scenarios. That confidence soon sort of drains away into what if this goes wrong? Will we be seen as progressing as much as we thought we had have? But, deep down I was thinking, well, you know what? We've had the performance against Reading and Wigan and Hull City. None of those performances were great. I just felt we were due one, and we got one really, and we almost got a perfect one. So and I'm buzzing really, still buzzing about it.
Brilliant. I mean, for me personally, obviously we knew that Villa were a team that have recently been battling relegation. They'd just been spanked by Southampton. Was it 6-0 or 6-1? And then they lost the next game after that. I think was it Burnley or somebody. So they'd come into the game, not on great form, and they weren't a great team in the first place. So that sort of gives you confidence. But at the same time, there is that unknown factor with a new manager. Can he pull it off just in one match? It is only 90 minutes. You never know what's going to happen. Arsenal have a history of, making silly mistakes. You only have to look at last year's final to see that going 2-0 down so quickly. So it's still, for me, there was an element of fear, that sort of unknown quantity that you get in finals, but also the fact that they do have a new manager. How did you feel about that, James?
Yeah, I mean, at first I went for 3-1. I thought, do you know what, we're definitely going to concede. I thought, playing Chesney I was really worried about. I was worried about if he started Giroud instead of Walcott, because I thought that pace is needed because they're so slow. I'm a Ron Vlaar fan, and I think that Akore on his day is not a bad little centre back. We all know Kieran Richardson and Alan Hutton are to right back and left back. Just they're nothing special, and I thought just attack them on that. So I was pleased with that lineup when it come in. But yeah, I really was a bit nervous. But like credit to Clive, he said time and time again, the performances haven't been amazing, and we're due one, and by God did we get one. So no complaints from me whatsoever.
Brilliant. Okay, let's move on a bit further then. When you're in the stadium and you find out what the lineup's going to be. Lots of talking points here because there's so much he could have done, might have done, would have done. Does he stick with Chesney or Ospina? Does he bring Rosicky in because Rosicky helped us get there? Turns out he wasn't even on the bench. Does he go with Giroud up front or Theo? All kinds of fascinating conversations there. Clive, what did you make of it?
Well, when the team came out, Chesney was in goal. I thought, okay, he's been loyal. And then, but Theo started centre forward. I saw it. I thought he'd play on the right. I thought his pace would be needed, but I thought Giroud would play. And, I thought it'd be a decision between Ramsey and, Cazorla. But again, we've got so many options right now. I was flip-flopping that decision all week. But if you watch the West Brom game again and just keep watching it, I was torn between, did West Brom play and how did we look? And we looked so quick. We looked so instant and intense. There was an intensity about our game. And I thought, this is really interesting. So I was sort of torn. Did West Brom try, or were we that good? And then you look at this Southampton game, and it was a 6-1 game, and they were killed by Mane and his pace. And it sort of dawned on me later in the week that actually maybe he would go with Theo as centre forward. And he did, and I thought it was a huge call. Absolutely huge call. But it was a correct call. And as the game developed, I know you're going to go into that, but he started a little bit slow. Once we connected with him, we looked like a different outfit. We looked like, a front six that were totally in tune with each other. We had technical players, thinking quick, passing quick, moving quick. They were switching positions. They were very, very fluid and very, very intense in their game. And he got to give credit to the manager. I mean, he has called that perfectly. And there are many times when in our eyes, in our amateur eyes, he doesn't call it correctly. But he called that correctly, and he called that from weeks previously. He may have been looking at them. West Brom may have been a test to see how the Cup final team could have gone out. And he's ended up going out there with a team that was rested, tuned, focused, and they delivered. And credit to him, because there's been many, many times when Arsenal have gone out in big games and look unprepared, look like they haven't looked at the opposition. And in this case, in everything we did, it looked like we had studied Villa. We had worked them out, knew who their top players were, and we snuffed them out. So credit to the club, credit to the coaching staff, because they looked after 30 million Arsenal fans on Saturday and made sure we had a great day out.
Well said. The Theo thing on its own, I think, is an interesting talking point, because we'll come on to his actual performance in a minute, but just the selection was quite brave, because if you remember in the last podcast, I was saying that, what would happen if we actually copied, you mentioned the West Brom game, what happened if we actually copied that lineup exactly and brought on the same subs at the same time? And, both of you, I think, there was Callum, wasn't it, had slight doubts about that. But I thought that whether you copied it exactly or not, Theo should definitely start, whether it's on the right or up front, he should definitely start, simply because he scored a hat-trick, he looked electric, and you just can't ignore him. And I think that he basically sent the manager a message there saying, you cannot possibly leave me out. We all know what Giroud brings to the team, but you can't leave me out because I'm on fire. And, even if he'd only scored 1 or 2 goals against West Brom, his cameo performances as a sub in the games leading up to it were also great. So he just couldn't be ignored. But it's still a brave decision, and one that slightly surprised me, because Wenger always comes back to base, doesn't he, a lot of the time? Big game. Yep. I'll come back to base. I know this formula works. I know these players control the game, so I'm going to stick with what I know. And then the players on the pitch won't have to look up. They'll just know where each other are. But putting Theo up front was bold, and if it hadn't have worked, he would have got slated for it. But he noticed, as we said in previous podcasts, that Giroud was getting tired. And the reason he hasn't scored for a while is because he looks a bit leggy. He's not sharp. And, Wenger, credit to him, he's taken that into account. It seems obvious, isn't it, to us, but he's still got to make that big call. And he benched Giroud, and it was absolutely the right decision. And then you got the other issue of Jack Wilshere. I wanted him to start because he looked electric as well. But he brought him on later, and he helped to set up the 4th goal. So he got a lot of things right, on the night. And so, you can't criticise it. But what did you think when you saw the lineup, James?
Like I said, I was a bit, worried about Szczesny in goal. I was happy that Nacho Monreal was recalled. Kieran Gibbs, all right. I think he's a good player. But I think this season, Nacho Monreal is leaps and bounds ahead of him. And he's got to be like Coquelin's probably the first name on the T-sheet. But Monreal after Sanchez has got to be like 3rd or maybe 4th on there, because he has developed so well this season. And again, yesterday I thought he was fantastic, and I will credit everybody yesterday. I thought the whole team was superb. All of them were superb. And, you know, I'll throw an apology out to Szczesny. I thought this guy's done for. I thought this guy
Me
is
too.
absolutely buggered. And he was superb. Every time that cross come in for Benteke, he ran out there, punched it, caught it, brought it in, dealt with it. He done his research, which is something that a lot of times Arsenal get criticised for. People think, they don't watch their opposition, they don't see how things go. He researched that, because every single time, because Benteke was going, you know, near post, and he helped Monreal out a lot there, sorting that out. He did really well yesterday, Szczesny, for that. So top credit. And, you know, obviously I wanted Wilshere out there, but then you look at it with Ramsey. Cool, blimey, we could have had 2 or 3 goals before our first one went in. You know, Ramsey had the one where he hit the volley over, and then he slid one into the side netting. You know, we were absolutely turning it on, and, you know, he was unlucky not to score.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Ramsey. He's kind of, he finds the space, he makes the late runs into the box, and that's why he's in the team. I thought at certain times in certain recent games he was looking a bit tired and the flicks weren't coming off. So that's why I wanted Jack to start. But I think Ramsey's got such an engine that even if he's tired, if he has a week off, he can come back on good form. And I think, in the end, it was obviously right because he was great. If you look at the whole thing, Szczesny, I agree with you, that was the one thing that worried me. But he was absolutely solid. Okay, he didn't have as much to do as he might have done if he played a top 4 team, because they only had 2 attempts on target, but there were a lot of crosses. He dealt with them really well, punched them, and he was very solid. You know, that sort of, I was saying in a previous podcast that his confidence was shot to shit. Well, that's what he looked like in his previous performances, but not yesterday. So, credit to him for that. But it's interesting because people felt, well, if you play Szczesny, it must be out of loyalty, like he did with Fabianski last season, because Szczesny's the one that got us there. But yet he didn't actually show the same loyalty in other parts of the pitch. So he must have believed that Szczesny was good enough, because he didn't, you know, like I said, Rosicky wasn't even in the squad. Gibbs wasn't there, and he played in FA Cup games. There are various people that he could have brought back in that helped us get to the FA Cup and deserved to start, and he didn't bother with any of them. So it's interesting that, you know, the loyalty thing only applied to one position this time. But
I'll just go back into the game a little bit. I happened to be in the Villa end yesterday, so it's quite interesting seeing Arsenal from the other side. And from the moment the boys came out in the warm-up, I looked at the 2 sets of players, and our players just looked physically supreme and focused. And our warm-up, we were out there way before them. If ever a game was won in the warm-up, it was the FA Cup final, you know, and we looked tremendous. And the first 10 minutes of the game, we were struggling to connect with certain compartments. And I was looking at Ozil and I was wondering, you know, you're not really in this. And there was a period when he got the ball to his feet, he sort of ran back towards his own goal, and it looked like a pass back to the goalkeeper. And it was about minute 12, and he just whipped the ball out to Monreal. Unbelievable pass. Monreal takes it down one touch, drives into the middle, cleverly gets booked. And suddenly, from the moment that minute 12 hit, we started to play. And the moment Ozil got into the game, he felt good from that pass. Then he started to move. And then he started to connect us to Sanchez and Theo. And once we got that connection going, the whole game changed. The intensity of the game, the fluidity of the game, everyone's roles became clarified. Sanchez had the ball on the left-hand side. He drove inside. Hutton got a block off the shot. And we were spinning down Hutton's channel. He was like a spinning top, going round and round. Monreal, Cazorla, Ozil, just playing balls in behind Sanchez, focusing on the old right back. Just like we used to do in Henri's days, we just hit that channel, devastated inside, crosses back, cutbacks, crosses across the face. I mean, I'm watching this game thinking, this is unreal. We have to score. You know, we've got to score soon. I mean, I've just not seen us so prepared, so rested, so fresh. I'm watching this game in complete wonderment, to be honest. It's just tremendous. It
was a great day, wasn't it? And let's just have a whip through that the events of that first half, because unlike the last FA Cup final last season where we started so badly, it almost as if the players said, right, whatever happens, that's not going to happen. Even if we don't score for 45 minutes, we're not going to concede 2 goals in the first 15 minutes. And we set up like that. And we still attacked and we were still quick, but we were, when they got the ball, we were all over them like a rash. So they couldn't put anything together. They couldn't string a few passes together. They basically gave the ball away, because of our pressure. But at the same time, we just attacked, almost incessantly. We had, Koscielny's header that was saved. A great save by Shea Given, and then Bellerin had a cut back to Ramsey, didn't he, which just hit the outside of the netting. Then Ramsey put one over the bar, just bounced awkwardly in front of him, didn't he? Should have scored that, yeah. And then there's that that classic one with Theo's blocked shot. I mean, that was an absolutely brilliant chance, because he was right in front of the goal, and he whacked it straight into one of the defenders, I think. And if he'd angled his foot a bit more, maybe that would have gone in. Should have probably scored, but that was a golden opportunity because he was very close. And then after that, at this point, it was 62% possession in our favour. And then he scored the goal itself, which was beautifully well worked. Do you want to talk about that one, James?
Like I said, Monreal, the man is an absolute don. He whips that ball in. You think, it's going to go over all their heads. Sanchez, heads it down. And then Theo, weak foot, smash. I don't know, in the last few weeks, I'll issue another apology out. I thought, this guy, he can't play centre forward. He's smashing it, keep him playing centre forward. But I didn't know he could hit a ball so hard. That goal against West Brom, I thought, I wanted to see how many, MPH he's hit that with. And then the one yesterday, alright, it was a bit more cushioned, but he half levered it, and it was his weaker foot as well. It was his weaker foot, it was his left foot. And Theo's a form player, I've said this so much, and, alright, he's, 26, 27. He still sort of takes things to heart, like most people do. I think English players always do, they get a lot of negative headlines, and they take a lot of things to heart. But yesterday you saw how much that goal meant to him. He ran like just mental. He loved scoring that goal, and it was amazing. It was such a good goal, and he weren't even the best on the day, but it was still such a brilliant goal.
Sorry, go on, Clive.
He got a great contact on it. So
yeah,
even on the block shot, as a striker, all you're trying to do is get contact, right? So you worry about the ball hitting your foot, and you worry about the contact on the ball. And the one that Kieran Richardson blocks on the line, that's a great block. Theo has done nothing wrong with that. He has hit that hard, on target, and he's done a miraculous block. On the second one, again, he's played the pass in. He hasn't admired it. He's gone into the box. He's gone onto his wrong side, and he has just showed composure, right? So what they sort of teach you normally is that when you're on the ball, they teach you act like you're on fire. So be agile, be proactive, take men on, be really intense. But when you're about to shoot, you got to act like it's ice. They say ice and fire, right? So he did that perfectly. As he ran up to the ball, he slowed his body down and just concentrated on the contact, and he hit that perfectly. Didn't try to score, he tried to contact the ball and hit the target. And sometimes you get a block and sometimes it goes in. And I think, on your weak side, that is the perfect technique, and he did it really, really well, and he got his luck, and he went in the near post, and I have to say, I watched him really closely yesterday, and I'm massively impressed with him. Impressed with how he is a bit of a confidence player, but impressed with how he looks. He looks like an absolute supreme athlete. When you see him up close, he's starting to look like Sergio Aguero, but even quicker than him and more dynamic than him. They may not have the variation of finishes that Aguero's got, but he is a player. He really is. And to watch him at top speed, bring the ball under control with people all around him, defenders hanging off the back of him, I had a newfound respect for him. And I got to say, I'm so pleased he had his moment yesterday. And listened to his dad on TalkSport today, or was it last night, and listened to him today. I don't think he's a player who's going to be leaving. I think he's a player that's just about to start his career, and hopefully injury-free, we're going to see the best of him going forward.
Yeah, I must say, if anybody listening to this has not seen Theo live in the flesh, it's very different from watching him on the telly. You know, you see him burn down the wing past you and you realise actually how fast he is ridiculous. But yeah, and obviously he's improved a lot over the years. His finishing's got better. And I think people that were thinking about selling him to Liverpool, not mentioning any names, but I think that's a mistake, because I always thought that if Theo hits his full potential, he can be unbelievable. And there was that season, whenever it was a few seasons ago, when he scored 18, 19 goals, whatever it was. And I thought, well, that's something. There's absolutely no reason why he can't not only do that regularly if he doesn't get injured, but also top that. You know, he could be like a real high scoring winger. You know, and that was without even playing him up front. He scored all those goals from the wing, and he can do that again. And if he goes up front, even more. So I think that the manager sees the potential in him, and that's why he's going to want him to stay. But going back to what you said, James, about a powerful shot, I mean, he does have a powerful shot, and it was a season or two ago that he actually broke the net with one. So yeah, there's no shortage of power there. And
no, I just thought it was fantastic, like especially for his weak foot. And like Clive said, you know, all right, he might not have the most variety of his finishes, but it looks like it's something he's practicing on. It looks like something he's adding to his game. So fair play to him. You know, we've always seen him. All right, I don't like to make the comparison, but it's that Henry-esque, you know, I cut in and it's like a nice little side foot, tidy little finish. But he's absolutely pelting balls in for fun now. But long may it continue. Long may it continue. I'm completely turned back round on the guy, and I just hope he stays fit and everything, because we all know he's a player. That's the thing, you know. All right, I'll freely admit, I said, you know, has he really improved since he's been 16? And you know, deep down, I don't really think he has. But now he looks like he's going to kick on, and I so hope he does, because he looks amazing. He does look amazing.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing you have to bear in mind as well is that he's not even back to full sharpness after his injury.
No, exactly.
He's played one game and a few sub appearances. You know, when he was offside about 4 times yesterday as well. So
it's just a shame there's no games left, because, like I said, he is a man that relies so much on form, and you know, maybe with the injury to Danny Welbeck and Sturridge, maybe Hodgson might go, do you know what, I might play Theo down the middle as well, and hopefully he does, because Theo's just, like I said, he's a form guy. He just needs to keep going and keep scoring.
Well, on this current form, which, as I said, is not even his best yet, because it's not even a run of games. You know, he's going to make Welbeck. He's going to stick him to the bench, because
definitely.
Kind of performance is much better than what Welbeck's capable of, even on his best day, in my opinion. But anyway, I don't want to go down the old Theo versus Welbeck debate again. We've had it before, and I think.
I'm sorry, Jasper. One thing I will say about yesterday, and every time I sort of go live, I try to see, you know, what's different. And I gotta say, the physical shape of the players is incredible. How they look physically, their muscle density and their power. I'm not sure if it's the Puma kits, but their lower body power is huge. I mean, you look at Cazorla, you look at Wilshere, you look at Ramsey, you look at Walcott, you look at Sanchez. These guys are walking gym bunnies. They really are. They look amazing. And you compare that to Villa. When Gabby Abominable came on, well, he looked like George Foreman locked in a Kentucky Fried Chicken. He really did, in comparison to Alexis Sanchez. And I just thought, this is unbelievable. We've moaned about our fitness, moaned about our injuries, but there's something happening there. There really is. There's a difference to how we look physically, and our dynamism. It's really starting to stand out for me. And Walcott epitomizes it. But you look at Wilshere as well. You know, I looked at Ramsey close up yesterday. I was really impressed with their fitness and their physicality. I just thought it really shone out in comparison to Villa.
Well, perhaps this is the new guy from Germany. What's his name?
Jasper.
That's the one, yeah. It's from the Germany team. But, I mean, what they've done with Jack is unbelievable because he has looked absolutely amazing since he's come back. And I really look forward to seeing more of him next season. But anyway, I'll just move on to the second half now. We hadn't been playing for long before Alexis Sanchez unleashed an absolute rocket. I mean, what a goal, James.
Well, I was watching the game with my dad, and he's been going since early 70s. And I said to him, you were there for Charlie George, Dad. You were there for Sunderland. You were there for Overmars. You were with me for Parlour and Lundberg. And I said, how does that rank up? And he'll never knock down Charlie George because Charlie George is his hero. But he said that's up. He said that's got to be one of the second best. He said that's second best. I couldn't believe it. You know, growing up, one of my childhood heroes. I'm not a Leeds fan by any means, but Tony Yeboah was one of my childhood heroes, and the way he would kiss the crossbar with these shots from range, and they'd just be absolute thunderbolts, like, you know, you call it a rocket, thunderbolt, whatever you want to. Oh my goodness, I screamed the bloody house down. It was absolutely fantastic. You could have any goalkeeper in the world and they're not going to save that. The way the ball moved and everything, like, yeah, I can't keep not watching it. It's absolutely incredible. It gets better every time. It just gets better every time.
What I like about it as well, when they show it from all different angles, there's one angle, I think it's the aerial view, from like the helicopter, where you can see actually how far out he is. He's miles out.
Oh, it's
absolutely miles out.
But that's the thing. You got to be tenacious, and you got to have the audacity to go, do you know what? I'm going to absolutely belt one, and he's got it. He's got it in abundance, Alexis Sanchez, and I love him. I absolutely love him, and you know, he's just setting himself more and more into hearts of Gooners everywhere. I mean, I don't know if you guys watched on BBC or BT. I watched on BBC, and before the game, they did this whole thing about Sanchez, and they went to Chile, where he's from, and spoke to all his youth managers and everything else. It was absolutely fantastic little piece of video. If it's been re-uploaded to Twitter, by all means, if you can find it, watch it. It's absolutely amazing piece. And the guy's just humble as anything. He's not arrogant at all. He's just a model professional, and that goal just sums him up for me. I love the man to bits. Absolutely love him to bits.
That was top quality, wasn't it? And what I liked about it as well is, if you remember when we spanked Liverpool 4-1 at home, and he scored a very similar goal.
Yeah.
It was a tiny bit closer to the goal, but it's exactly the same goal pretty much. And because
he just loves Wembley, doesn't he? He's got 4 in 3 at Wembley, and you know, Community Shield against Chelsea. I know he's at Copa America, so I'm gutted, but I'd love him to score something like that against Chelsea. Absolutely love him to.
Oh, definitely. But anyway, what I was saying was that goal that he scored that was the same, because Mignolet wasn't having the greatest game with one or two of the other goals, all the pundits on telly said, oh, the keeper should have, or most of them said, oh, the keeper should have got that, you know, and that was Mignolet's fault. And now when you see him do it again against another keeper who's also very experienced, neither of them could save it. You realise that it's nothing to do with the keeper. It's just an unstoppable shot. And the speed of the ball and the power behind it, it doesn't matter if you're Mignolet or Given or, you know, whoever. I don't think even De Gea would have saved that, because it's swerving and it's travelling at an unbelievable speed. So all this crap about, oh, the goalie should have saved it against Mignolet. No, I'm sorry, mate. It's not savable. If you look at that Liverpool one again, it's actually past him before he even starts to dive. He hasn't got a hope of saving that.
He strikes the ball with a violence, right, that stands out. So you've got 22 professional footballers on the pitch, but when he hits it, it's like, he's bordering on violence where he strikes it. I mean, he did one in the first half. Hutton blocked it, and Hutton's legs nearly came off, right? And I'm thinking, that was going in. That was going on goal. And then come the second half, he's come inside again and hit that. And he did that right near me, and I looked at it. And when he struck it, it was violent. It was a violent strike that just had to go close, right? And again, I mean, he was determined to make his mark on the day, and that's what we want to see from our big players. We've had big players before that just play for Arsenal. That's not enough. Your big players have got to come out and actually have their mark on the game. And all our big players showed up yesterday. I want to see our big players show up against the big teams. That's the next step. Sanchez, unbelievable goal. You know, probably the best goal I've seen live in my own eyes, for sure.
Absolute cracker, wasn't it? I think people will be talking about that for years. Yeah, I mean, after that, we've got another chance. Cazorla had a shot that was saved. Theo had a shot that was then offside. And then you got the Mertesacker header. It was being marked by Benteke, wasn't he? And Mertesacker just went forward, jumped back 2 yards to give himself the space and smacked it in. I think it might even come off his shoulder. And still there was no gilet from Tim Sherwood. I was very disappointed. I expected at 3-0 for him to fling something to the ground, but nothing happened. Clive.
Yeah. He had a claret hanky, and that could have gone, but it wouldn't have had the same impact. But
It just slowly sort of drift to the ground like a feather. It's not really going to work, is it?
no, Tim had a nice slim tie on, and he was doing his bit, looking the part. But to be fair, he's not an idiot. We were on our game massively, and they couldn't impose their game on us. And in fact, the Mertesacker goal looked actually quite ugly in comparison to the other goals, and it was a bit of an anticlimax, but it was a goal that made us all realise that we were going to have a night out. And I thought on the set pieces, in fact, the whole game, we looked rehearsed again. We looked like we'd been coached. We looked prepared. We were running off Benteke. We were moving him around. Benteke off goal kicks, and while he's standing still and jumping off a standing start, I don't think he lost one header. Once you start to move him around and run around him, I felt he panicked and jumped under the ball a couple of times. He didn't know where his man was. He started to try to cover two men and ended up getting caught in spaces. And we've had a few headers in that game that could have done a bit better. So again, on set pieces, we've had quite a good season. And then we had a good day on Saturday. You know, we looked really, really sharp, and Mertesacker got his moment. And to be honest, it was pretty ugly, but who cares? You know, it's a third goal, and that really sealed it for us, to be honest.
James, what did you make of that goal?
I love Per Mertesacker. Everybody knows. I find it so hard to slag the man off because he just loves Arsenal. He just loves the club, and it's just the thing that made me laugh was the whole when it's come off his shoulder or whatever. He just doesn't know how to celebrate. He doesn't know what he's doing, and then Koscielny can't tell it's a goal because he's had his shirt pulled over his face or whatever.
Oh, that was
from the
hilarious.
other player. He's turning around going, what's going on? And the ref's like, you've scored, mate. So Koscielny just pulls the shirt back down and runs in. Absolutely
You know what I thought
hilarious.
had happened then? You know, I thought it happened, James, because I saw him. I thought he'd actually started celebrating early. Like that was his celebration, was to pull it over his head and run around like a nutter. I was thinking, how can he celebrate?
It was
even know that
absolute
goal's
calamity, but it was brilliant. And I'll tell you, Clive, I don't really want to jump early because I know we'll probably talk about the parade a bit later on, but during the parade today, Mertesacker was interviewed and he was talking about his goal, and he said that we know that we don't score enough from set pieces as much as we like and as much as we want to, but we've got the height in there, and we need to use it a bit more often. We got these players that are dead ball specialists that can ping the corners and stuff in, and he said that they've spent a lot of time after training themselves. When they can go, they can go home if they want to, but they're practicing set pieces. So, keep watching that space. Yeah.
Did you look at how many goals we scored from set pieces? I think we're in the top 3 in the league this season.
Yeah, I admit we got a lot better.
And yesterday, what you noticed really quickly is that when we had corners or free kicks, we really only had 2 players of height. Now, Giroud and Welbeck are our next sort of 2, and neither of them were playing. So we normally have 3 players that someone's got to mark. So really, you bring Benteke back, and you've got Akore and you've got Vlaar, and we're really sort of outnumbered on size. Villa weren't massive, but they had 3 to our 2. So our 2 were really mobile in the box. They were really hard to mark, and I thought we did a great job, considering that we missed Giroud, who's very, very good on set pieces at both ends in the box. So, I thought, delivery superb, movement superb. Second phase, Koscielny's header on second phase ball was fantastic. Hitting the target mostly. I tell you, there's not much to pick on, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was brilliant, but it is great that that they said that, James, because it shows their own initiative, isn't it? They're not sort of these mercenary players. They turn up to training, they collect their wages, and they go home at 2:00 or whenever it is they finish, and that's that. You know, they recognise a weakness in the game, and they work on it, and that's what you want from the top professionals. And if we're in the top 3, I wasn't aware of that, but that's a massive improvement, because I'm not sure if we've ever been in the top 20 before.
What I will say about Mertesacker as well is that after, when the trophy presentation was going on, last year, Vermaelen didn't want to go up there with Arteta. He was like, no, you've been the captain for it. And Arteta said to him, no, come on, you're coming up. And this year, same thing again. Arteta was like, no, you've been the captain, for this campaign. You've scored the goal. You've scored goals. He scored the one against Hull. He scored this one. And Mertesacker went, no, come on, we'll lift it together. And that just shows, like I said, the guy loves Arsenal. And all right, we all know he's, milk turns quicker than him, and yada yada yada. But you can't get rid of him because he's experienced and everything, and he reads the game so well, and his partnership with Koscielny is on par probably with Terry and Cahill's on its day as being one of the best in the league. I think Company and Di Michelis and City definitely need to strengthen there, because they were awful this year as a partnership, them two. But next to Terry and Cahill, I'd say Koscielny and Mertesacker is probably the most solid. But we all know Gabriel's probably going to get the chance, and Gabriel's solid as well. But you can't get rid of Mertesacker for me. He's got to be in there. He's such a good experienced head.
It's true, isn't it? And he wasn't great after the World Cup. And a lot of people wanted him
He
gone, but it's another knee-jerk reaction is, someone has a few bad games, fans want him out, and, life is not like that. Players, can come in and out of form, and the old class is permanent bullshit and all that stuff. It does apply, it is true. And, he's him and Koss together, they've been untouchable ever since he's found that form after his initial dip. They've been fantastic, and you wouldn't
they've
leave
got
them
the
out.
Soldier in front of him as well. We haven't even mentioned him yet. I know we're talking about goals, but God blimey, the Coquelin, man. We'll keep going.
Yeah, we'll get to Coquelin. Don't panic. We'll definitely get to him. Just going back to the game. So after that goal, Theo and Ozil came off, which is one of the few times I've actually seen Ozil substituted off, which is interesting. But anyway, they both came off for Jack Wilshere and Giroud. And I don't think there was, at this point we're 3-0 up, so it doesn't really matter who we bring on. I was just glad that we didn't do the boring thing of bringing on Flamini, because it always seems to be Flamini these days. But, they did well when they came on. Anything to say about those substitutes, Clive?
I think I'm going to say something a little bit negative, but not really massively so. I thought I'm a big believer in a fluid front six. I've spoken before about a Marco Reus type player playing in our team, and almost having a level of fluidity and positional rotation, and I loved it. And yesterday we saw some of that. We saw Coquelin holding things with Cazorla, Ramsey being quite free in his movement, Ozil being quite free in his movement, really prompting behind Sanchez and Theo that were almost like a front two. So we had a front six there that were massively fluid, right? With really Coquelin, the only one holding his position. And when Giroud came on, did nothing wrong. We just looked different when he came on. He moved to the flanks. He didn't just stay central. And I looked at him and we just looked a little bit slower. There's nothing he can do. There'll be games when, he's a perfect centre forward, but I do think in England, our sort of British centre halves and what we allow referee wise, they do like a standing target to go and hit. And in those sort of, few games where we didn't score at home, Giroud was that standing target. And I think defenders like to defend someone like that. When they, rather than defend someone on the half turn who wants to move, wants to switch positions, want to laterally go across the box. And, nothing that Giroud did wrong. He scored a great goal. He scored a classic Giroud goal. He's got a presence in there. He makes people tired. He works people hard. He's physical. He is what he is. But, my own eyes, my own structures and what I like to see, I like fluidity. I like dynamism. I like devastation of pace. I enjoy seeing that. So, I enjoy seeing Sanchez really agile on the ball, Ozil moving into space, moving it really, really quickly to another fast player who's going to get it back. I enjoy seeing Oxlade-Chamberlain dynamic and quick. That's what I like to see. And there's a place for for the slower static game. But I thought Giroud did really, really well. But if we're looking to go on a level, I thought really, I saw his limits. They were really apparent, strangely enough, even though he scored. I saw his limits, and then when you watch Arsenal, you see our offensive limits. And with Theo, I know he may not be as polished, may not be as consistent. He's been here 8-9 years. He hasn't had a massive run of form, but there's no limits with him where he could be. There's less of a ceiling, and I think that's what I'm looking for, really. I'm thinking if we can add another pacey forward, maybe a bit taller, maybe a little bit more accomplished, I think that could be our developmental last step. So, Giroud did fine. Jack does his thing. He's very quick, very dynamic early, especially when he's fresh. He can always break the lines and move the ball really well. He wanted to dribble. By the time they came on, Villa were dead. They were waiting to get out of the stadium. So, it's hard to judge them, but, it's a great bench. It's got great depth, and we can't really complain where we are at the moment.
No, it's an interesting point you make about Giroud and Theo, but, on the one hand, when you see Theo in this kind of form, being explosive, and you see Giroud looking slightly tired, it's easy to say, oh, Theo's the way forward. Yeah. But you have to remember as well that there's a big difference between them when they're not scoring. And what I mean by that is when they're in a game, but they're not physically putting the ball in the net. It's what they're doing off the ball and stuff. And the thing is with Theo is that when he's not running in on goal, he's making run after run after run. And in that game, he was offside a few times, which is fine. But I think what he doesn't do that Giroud does is actually retain the ball. So when people lump the ball up to Giroud or thread it through to him or hit, even the goalkeeper kicks the ball out for him to flick on with his head or bring it down on his chest. That's something that Theo can't really offer you. And what he does then is if he brings it down successfully on his chest, which he seems to do 70-80% of the time, and then pass it 5 yards sideways to an on-rushing Ramsey or Theo or whoever, what you've done then is you've turned a goal kick into a serious attack in the final third. And Theo's not likely to do that because a goal kick someone's going to out-jump him. One of the centre-backs will out-jump him, which that doesn't happen with Giroud. Or he's got to try and bring it down with his feet. And bring someone else in and then turn, it's difficult, more difficult for him to play that kind of game. But what I noticed immediately with Giroud when he came, which is a massive difference between him and, let's say, for example, Adebayor, when the goal kick went up to him, Adebayor's first touch was bad, or he didn't win the ball as much, so the header would go on to no one, or he wouldn't win it in the first place. All of a sudden, everything sticks to Giroud. And so you're transferring your possession from, our own goal mouth to the final third, and all of a sudden things can happen, and Giroud flicks the ball around in the penalty box in a way that Theo's not thinking like that. I don't mean he's not going to get assists, he will, but he's thinking, give me the ball, I'll dribble around one man, get an early shot off with loads of power. That's what he's thinking. He's not thinking, right, if I turn my back to goal, who can I bring in? But Giroud plays with his back to goal, so different type of players that have their pros and cons, and I think you obviously can play them both. You can play Theo on the right and Giroud up front, but against some teams, what we did against Villa with Theo up front just wouldn't work. Because we can't always play that way of threading the ball through to him with him on the shoulder of defenders running into space. Because, Villa playing deep played into his hands, but other teams won't play deep, so it's not always going to work like that. And that's where you've got to make a decision. Do you play Theo up front? Do you play Giroud up front? They're different. Do you know what I mean? They have their pros and cons.
You're absolutely right. You made a great point, especially about off the ball. There was a period in that game, even in the perfect game of yesterday, where Theo in the first 10 minutes he didn't really touch the ball, and that was all down to Ozil not touching the ball. Ozil couldn't get into the game, but once Ozil got into the game and we could connect to Theo, then suddenly we're talking about Theo again, right? So with Giroud, he can make a game without anybody else. You can go straight to him more directly, and he can start the game, play off. he can start our pattern of play, whereas Theo's, he's more of an end product person. So if we're not playing well in a deeper position, Theo's a passenger, right? He's not going to work. He's not going to really track back. He's not going to press. He's more of a passenger. He's not a massively brilliant dribbler. So if the team is playing well, you've got your end product person up front. And that's what we had yesterday, a team that was playing really, really well. So there is a position for both of them. It was just quite apparent how different we looked when Drew came on. I don't say different bad, just different. And in a season of like 60 games, different's okay. We shouldn't write them off. It'll be interesting to see how Wenger develops our offensive unit and see what type of player he brings in. My feeling is he'll bring in a taller, pacey player. I don't think he's going to bring another Giroud. I don't think we need two of those. So, but yeah, I agree with you. Off the ball, Giroud is tremendous in a much more hard-working way, much more tracking back and pressing way, and also giving us a much more direct first point of contact.
Yeah, and I do agree with you as well that we don't need another Giroud, because you don't need two players that play in that kind of way. Anyway, moving on, James. Next, there was a foul on Agbon Lahore. I think it was Coquelin, just outside the box. Should have been a free kick. Agbon Lahore wanted a penalty. He got neither. Then there was a foul on Grealish, which should have been a penalty. Do you think we got a bit lucky there?
Yeah, definitely. But who cares? Who cares? Sometimes you need everything went our way. You need the luck. And Coquelin was a lucky boy, but I'm glad you brought him up. This guy's incredible, isn't he? He's so good. He's so good. And like we said, everybody yesterday was fantastic. And we've all talked about the offensive players, and we've mentioned Mertesacker a bit as well, but Monreal, but even Bellerin is a kid. Last season he took a selfie, sat on the bench watching them go and collect the cup. This year he's not on the bench taking a selfie, he's collecting the trophy and taking the selfies. That kid has come so far, and he's only going to go leaps and bounds. And you look at it, you had a player, Mathieu Debuchy, established French international, can't get in the team over a 19-year-old kid. It just speaks volumes about the depth and the talent that we do have. It's absolutely fantastic. But Koscielny as well, fantastic again. The guy's just Mr. Consistency, isn't he? Just everybody, absolutely everybody was superb. And credit where credit's due. Coquelin, give him a 10-year contract or something. You can't let him go. Can't let him go at all.
Yeah, I watched Bellerin really closely actually. He was, especially in the first half. He's
entertaining, isn't he? He's so entertaining.
What he does really well. If you watch the build-up play and our back line, and we do lots of play between Cazorla, Coquelin, and Koscielny and Mertesacker, and he sees. They call it like if you're being coached as a player, they call it you got to see your offensive triggers early. Right, and he spots when to move into wide spaces really quickly, and he's separated away from Grealish. Grealish didn't really go with him, and there were times when he received the ball right on the touchline, chalk on boots, and he had options there. And he had 5-6 yards in front of him to either go in a straight line straight onto Richardson, or go inside to midfielder and get it back again. And I thought he dominated Grealish. He absolutely dominated him. He had Grealish chasing him. Grealish decided to go lazy and go inside and say, okay, so who's going to come in? I'm going to go inside, and are you going to come with me? Brendan said, nah, I'm keeping the pitch big. I trust my centre mid to look after the ball and get it out to me. And this is where Coquelin's crucial, right? Because he'll take the 2-on-1 in the middle. He'll get stuck into them in the middle. He'll win the ball. Then he'll distribute it. And, people talk about Coquelin, but I thought yesterday on the ball, he's done a slow drag through Delphi's legs on the left-hand side. He's got out of tight situations 3 or 4 times, and he's switched play with long balls really quickly. Okay, sometimes he gets his head down and loses his picture, but he's really good on the ball. He's got a great distribution. He's making much better decisions. And in the end, Grealish thought, I've got to go back out there. I've got to go and mark Bellerin because he's running this game. I just think for a 19, 20-year-old to have that personality to do that, it's just huge. And how good is he going to be, right? As a defender, you're not even nowhere near your peak till you're 26. He's 20. I mean,
Scary.
can we keep him? Can we keep him? I mean, he's that good. He really is. He'll hit his wall, and he'll play too many games, and he'll hit his wall, and then he'll get called up for internationals, and he'll get injured. But
Bound
at the
to.
moment, we got something really, really special on our hands there for sure.
Well,
If I'm Del Bosque for Spain and I'm looking at it, I would pick Bellerin and Monreal now. I know I don't want to rush him in because he's doing so well for us, but you look at the telepathy and everything, and them two, the Spanish contingent there, they are solid as anything. They're so good together. They're absolutely brilliant. One goes up, one stays back, and they both, they both can cross. They both have got goals in them. All right, Monreal not so much. But he produced the finish at Man United today. Not today, Jesus Christ, losing me train of thought. He produced a finish at Man United earlier in the season that Raul would be proud of. It was absolutely fantastic. And if I'm looking at it from an international standpoint, I would definitely chuck them two in there.
I think funny you should mention Monreal. Actually, I know I'm going to attack here, Jasper, but there was a couple of sort of headlines earlier in the season about Aaron Cresswell coming to Arsenal. I'm thinking, well, we don't need him. What we need no left back for.
I want one.
Yeah, I know you want two more, but then suddenly this week I read a few things that Monreal's contract situation is not really that clear, and there's a good chance of him going to Bilbao, and whether it's contract negotiation chat, but there's been a few left backs that Arsenal have been linked with that I've just totally dismissed. But now I'm not dismissing it so easily. Maybe there is something going on there, that maybe his time in England is coming to an end. But
I hope not.
I hope not. He's found his game massively.
Yeah.
And the balance between, the fullback balance between him and Bellerin is perfect, really. And,
it would be like Van Bronckhorst leaving for me. You won't appreciate how good he's been until he's not there anymore. A bit like when Gilberto left as well. You never realised.
He's 20, We've waited 2 years for him. He's here. He's playing well. And we're looking to do things next year. So why don't we introduce another bit of risk into our back line where we're going to have to assimilate somebody for another year or so. So,
I would say, though, if he does go, Cresswell would be one of the first ones I'd look at. Well, I think he's a fantastic player.
Yeah, he looks bright, he looks nice, but we don't know, do we? We don't know how he's going to look playing an Arsenal shirt, playing for West Ham. You haven't got match day cameras watching you every single move. Any mistake you make, it's highlighted, and playing for Arsenal is different. So I'd love Monreal to stay another year. If he has got issues going back home, then another year will be great for us, because I think next year's going to be really crucial to us.
How can anyone not love living in London? Anyway, I was going to talk about your men of the match, actually. And I just wanted to finish off talking about the match first, but actually there's nothing left, really, is there? Sanchez came off for Oxlade-Chamberlain, and who's cut that sort of classic ball across the box, and vintage Giroud did his little outside of the boot flick over the keeper into the corner, and it was just vintage Giroud, really fantastic stuff. So that's what happened. Anyway, men of the match. Choosing a man of the match is really difficult because as we've discussed, Bellerin was fantastic, Theo was fantastic. Whoever scores the first goal in a cup final is absolutely crucial, and Cazorla's goal last year was brilliant and very important. It was the beginning of our comeback. So Theo, deserves a shout. Ozil pulling all the strings, Sanchez for the wonder goal, Koscielny for just being Koscielny. And Coquelin, as we discussed, there's so many. How do you possibly narrow that down, James?
Well, for me, I know Cazorla won it on the BBC. I don't know if he won it on the others. But just for the goal, I have to give it to Sanchez. I have to give it to Sanchez for the goal. But every single one of them, even the ones that come on, even if it was for a few seconds or whatever, everybody was fantastic. Everyone was fantastic. I can't knock any of them. And Wenger got it spot on the day as well, so fair play to the manager as well.
Yeah, Cazorla was another name I didn't even mention, but his game is almost, it avoids, apart from that man of the match award, his game sort of doesn't even attract the headlines. He doesn't score that much, but he's pulling all the strings. He's making it look easy. That's why it doesn't get talked about. But his ball retention is unbelievable. He drifts past players. He was absolutely orchestrating everything like the conductor. It was fantastic again.
He's another one as well, though, that, you know, we've all seen the links and stuff about him leaving, and, you know, some people really think he is. I personally think out of, if one big player, I'm talking like first team starter, is going to go, I think it probably will be him. And I will be gutted, because even though he's moved from, you know, or he was a 10, he's moved back into the set. I think that role he plays now is absolutely pivotal. And I think he's adapted his game, and he's really hitting a prime now. I mean, he's got the most assists in the Premier League for the last, 2 or 3 seasons since he's been here. And you can't take away service like that. He's absolutely crucial, and I will be gutted if Santi Cazorla leaves. I'll be absolutely devastated. Because he doesn't get he doesn't really get the plaudits he deserves.
No.
Because, you know, everybody appreciates the goal scorers. They don't really appreciate the ones that set it up. But his game is fantastic, and we will definitely need to spend big and get someone in to replace those assists.
Yeah, and he's
and the penalties as well.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I think one thing we do know is that Wenger wants to keep him. But of course, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. If he's feeling homesick and he gets a great offer, you know, Wenger's not going to stand in his way after what he's given to us. But I think the boss wants to keep him, so we can only cross our fingers. I'd be gutted as well, because I think a lot of what he does, like I said, goes unnoticed, and it feels like our possession stats have gone up 5%, and it's totally down to him, because we just seem to be always passing the ball forward. He never loses possession in the middle of the park, and this combination of Coquelin and Cazorla works really well, with Coquelin winning it back, giving it to Cazorla, and Cazorla driving forward, and it doesn't matter who's rushing at him, he just sidesteps them, you know, like the red rag, you know, with the ball. He just makes it look so easy. Anyway, Clive, could you possibly choose a man of the match, or?
No way. There's no way I could choose one. I mean, there wasn't really a bad performance on any of the 14 players that played, right? So, there were 2 players that I enjoyed watching the most, and, Coquelin was one. I think people are trying to read him now a little bit more carefully, and they're looking at the recent games when we've been on top, and he's been taken off. They're starting to question his ability on the ball. I thought yesterday he showed great ability on the ball. I thought what I like about him is just, it sounds basic, but it's just where he stands. He knows where to stand. I felt really he used to stand 3 yards deeper and confuse our centre backs. And sometimes when Ramsey plays in there, he's a bit too high up. I think Coquelin stands in the perfect position, which allows him to engage. And a big part of our game has been how he's intercepted things before it gets to our centre-backs, how he's tackled higher up and engaged the opposition really early. And what that allows us to do, that allows us broken field play. And that means as soon as he goes in for a tackle, you just got to look at Ozil and Cazorla. Cazorla runs to Coquelin, he runs to the area of commotion and picks up the ball and just transfers it. And what Ozil does really quickly is goes into space. And he's the other player that I really enjoyed watching yesterday. How he looked at Ramsey's space where he vacated and ran into it and took the ball on the left-hand side a lot. Then drove forward and then connected to Sanchez and Theo Walcott. So the combination and balance that sometimes I've questioned myself, Ozil has fixed it and Coquelin has fixed it. And they have been, wonderful to watch this calendar year for sure. And I cannot speak high enough about what Coquelin's doing. I mean, I'm not sure we're going to find anybody better to do that role for this Arsenal team. I just can't think of anybody. He does it absolutely perfectly. He's developing on the ball. Ozil, I was a bit concerned first 10, but once he got into the game, you just couldn't take your eyes off him. He was just gliding across that pitch. And I came out of that ground yesterday and I was in shock, and I was hoping that when I got home to watch it again, which I did 3 times last night, that it was as good as I thought it was. And I kept sort of texting home and saying, what are they saying on TV? Because this is unbelievable, and so yeah, I mean, there's so many good things to talk about, and hopefully our belief has gone up. And I just can't speak high enough for the players. We've criticised them a lot on here. We criticise him all the time on Twitter, but I've got to say it was perfection.
Yeah, and I agree with you about Ozil. It's classic Ozil that he always finds the space. And you look up 1 minute and he's in a totally different part of the pitch than he was a minute ago, and yet he's just somehow found a gap, and he's always available for the ball.
And that's where he works hard, Jasper. That is when you watch it, he absolutely busts a gut to run into a bit of space to just knock it off. And what people don't see is how hard he worked to get into that space and how aggressive he goes into it. Then he'll pop it off. You think, well, what's he doing that for? Another player, less of a team player, wouldn't do that. And then when it's his time to drive, he drives. When it's his time to check it back, he checks it back. His decision making is superb, and what he does for team fluidity is just unbelievable, you know. And I watched the world class player yesterday, and there was one bit. He sort of went down in the first half. He went down to the corner flag. I think Richardson was right near him. I thought, you know, he's not going to go in for the tackle there, is he? He's going to get himself hurt. He not only went in for the tackle, he coifed it right in front of Richardson, took it away from him. I just thought, that is unbelievable skill and technique and assuredness of what you've got in your boots. That type of stuff discourages another team. That makes them think we're not in their league. And it looked like it yesterday. It did look like men against boys. We were absolutely supreme against them.
I agree. It was a massive golfing class, and going back to Coquelin, and one of the things I loved about him, which he actually shared with Bellerin yesterday, was that they were both so composed on the ball. They never ever looked panicked or flustered. It didn't matter how many people were rushing at them. They were absolutely smoking a bloody cigar while they were out there. And you know, Coquelin, as I've watched him develop, you can see now that people can pass him the ball, and it doesn't matter if he's got a man right up his arse. He'll be very happy to receive the ball, because his first touch takes him away from them, or he just has a little 2-yard burst of pace where he finds enough space to make the pass. But he's so comfortable on the ball. Sometimes you see him, he's got 2 or 3 men around him. You saw that yesterday, and he just sort of moves away from them, gets himself to an area where he can safely release the ball. But he does it so well, and he does it all game long. It's fantastic. And what I loved about Bellerin was the same thing. He was really calm when he was in the attacking third, and he was really calm when he was defending as well. He just had a great game. What did you make of those two, James?
Yeah, you know, we keep saying it. He's cool as a cucumber, weren't he? And they're just brilliant, the both of them. Everybody was. You're just running out of words. I'm clutching at straws now to think of even more things to say. Every single one of them, you know. And Ozil gets this shitty, you know, he gets beaten with a shitty stick. He can't perform in big games. All right, credit where credit's due. Aston Villa, they ain't the biggest of teams. They battle relegation. And, you know, it's Tim Sherwood. You know he's played into Arsenal's hands because he's going to attack. But what bigger game is there than an FA Cup final? And he smashes it. It's like you said, he was pulling the strings. Absolutely smashed it. All of them, you know, all of them credit.
James, it's quite interesting actually. I watched the BBC version last night. Then I watched the BT version.
Yeah.
And on BBC, Danny Murphy started early to have a little bit of a pop at Ozil.
Yeah, they all do, don't they?
And I thought, this is interesting, because obviously I've seen the game, and I'm thinking, okay, let's see how this goes. Then Ozil starts to play, and you could almost hear the beep reversing out the garage, mate, because he was really changing his opinion. Because he does recognise a good player, Danny Murphy. He's very good on TV, generally.
Yeah, I like Danny
But
Murphy.
it's just, you know, that narrative around Arsenal's performance wrapped up in their expensive signing. I mean, a lot of people have waited and wanted Arsenal to spend money, and when we spent money on 2 players like Ozil and Sanchez, they can't wait for them to fail. It's a little bit boring, to be honest. And I watched him yesterday, and I enjoy watching him play football. You know, he shows me a side of football that I didn't know existed. I wish I didn't know existed when I could run and actually play the game properly, which I can't do any longer, you know, but I used to play a decent game, and I wish I could have watched someone like him, you know, 3 times a week, because I would have learned a lot more. You know, he's fantastic.
I think, to be fair, didn't Gary Lineker pick him up on that as the victory parade was going on? If I remember correctly, he said something to Danny Murphy about, you didn't rate Ozil before the game, and Danny Murphy did actually backtrack. Am I remember it right? No?
I think it could be. I can't really remember, mate. I was so wrapped up in it all. I think we all were, weren't we?
Anyway,
Yeah,
he's generally, he'll admit his mistake, won't he? But
He's good. He's really good, and I just think it seemed like, okay, everyone's waiting for Arsenal to fail. We were just warming up the engine, and in hindsight, we were warming up the engine, and Ozil was that engine, and yeah, he's had a big game in a cup final, and the next step for him now is a big goal against a Chelsea or a City or
yeah, definitely.
Once he does that in a big game that means something at a period in the season that's really important, then I think he shuts the door on every single critic.
yeah, I agree, and it's been said many times that the big players get judged on whether they turn up in the big games, and they all did that yesterday. All our big players did, so they shut a few people up, which is always nice. Anyway, moving on, we're coming to the end, so we'll just do a couple of listeners' questions, and then I think James wants to say something, doesn't he? Gunnar Optimist, how much will Theo improve as a centre forward? Well, we have talked about that. Could you add anything to that, James?
Nothing massive. Just keep playing him, and hopefully keep scoring. He'll keep going leaps and bounds. But if the season started next week, I know it doesn't. I'm speaking hypotheticals, and I had to speak a starting 11. Walcott up front straight away.
Really big. That's a big bold step. Okay, fair
like
enough.
I said, form guy. Got to keep him going. Keep going. Keep scoring.
I thought on Theo's game yesterday, there was a couple of periods where I thought where we had our defenders under pressure. So we were like, this is what Giroud does very well. He knows when to show himself. So if you've got a defender under pressure and he's thinking, okay, I'm being pressed, he looks up. And Theo was just sort of on the half turn, standing next to his centre back. What Giroud does is he comes short, he shows himself, gets a foul, and we don't give the other team second efforts, right? So it took a while, and then I thought, Theo, come on, mate, you've got to start moving. And then next time, about minute 10, I think it was, the ball came to Theo, he's come deep, he's come inside, he's took a couple of robust tackles and swept it out to Monreal. And I thought, he's recognised he can't just stand on the last man, he's got to show himself. I think once he recognises that, he can be a bit cute, he can be a bit Suarez-like. When he comes short, he can buy fouls if he's smart enough. Just show yourself, buy a foul, and we keep the ball. And if he does more of that, then I think people will think less about Giroud's attributes. But they're equally important to us, I'm afraid, at the moment. And at the moment, Theo's in an offensive vein. But if he can just make sure that when we're under pressure, he's still visible to our back line, I think he's going to be, a top centre forward.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's not a massive amount wrong with his game, is there? But tracking back a bit more would be great. Also, I think if he can just improve his dribbling skills by about 20% and make a big difference. He's a decent dribbler now, but you can imagine if he got to the point where he was half as good as, say, Jack or Cazorla at dribbling, he'd get himself into some unbelievable positions. And that's really the things like players like Aguero can do. They can be outside the box, a couple of step overs, and now they're in the box. We don't need to keep it a beat, and that's something that he could improve on. If he did that, he'd be worth 40 million. It'd just be unbelievable. But it's up to him, isn't it? So next question from, I have no idea how to pronounce that, TGR. I can sense the old ruthless Wenger slowly coming back. Will he carry that ruthlessness into the transfer window? Well, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? Because I think with the squad the way it is, he needs to be ruthless. He needs to be ruthless enough to do things like, say, sell Szczesny. He needs to be ruthless enough to add another striker without putting people's noses out of joint, like, say, Welbeck, who's only just bought. So he's going to need that. And also, if he does get another DM, Coquelin's got every right to sort of maybe complain. So, yeah, it's a good question. What do you reckon, James?
Yeah. To be fair, I think, I said it last season after we won. I'll say it again this one. Winning breeds winning. And I think, some people might be nervous. I'm always nervous ahead of a transfer window. But one thing we can't be is, afraid. I think we're a big club. All this financial fair play stuff. We all don't know how it's going to go. We all don't know what it's going to be like. Don't be afraid. Spend that money, go big, get them quick. We secured that Champions League football. Let's have no excuses. I don't want to be there, watching a man have to go in the Emirates because he's being, having sex toys and stuff pelted at him on transfer deadline day. Right at the end. I don't want to see all that. Are Arsenal going to sign Hunter Lara? I don't know. Shall I just go on my phone and look on Wikipedia at a footballer? Oh, Arsenal are going to, get Dion Dublin out of retirement, just scrambling, like we said, clutching on straws, trying to make stuff up. I just want it all done, all dusted, all settled, get them in, get them bedded in, get them playing. Because, we got the most points in 2015, didn't we, I think, if that's correct? I believe.
I heard something like that, yep.
Yeah, we got the most points, and even though positional-wise we finished third, I still think we're the closest to Chelsea. And, people are there for the taking. And Chelsea sort of won their league, straight away, done their business, and they won their first 10 or so games, and they, kept that platform and built from there. That's what we need to do. Just get them in, hit the ground running, and, trying to think of a nice word to say it, but let's just fuck the league up. You know what I mean? That's the best way I can put it. Let's just go out there and fuck it up, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Good answer.
Because they're hungry. Like we said many pods before, can't carry passengers anymore. Some of these now, they've got, even the younger ones like Bellerin, Coquelin, they've got winning mentality now, they've got trophies. And like I said, winning brings winning. And they're hungry. So let's keep them fed.
Fair enough. Okay, next question is from MS_T_P____. Wenger has 2 more seasons. Can he win the Premier League? Clive.
Yeah, Theodora, that's a follower of mine, and we have loads of chats. I think it almost follows on from the previous question. I think he can, and I think what's he got to do? I think he does need to decide what this team is missing. And listening to him talk today, he sort of said it's up to us to show a level of intelligence in what we do in the summer. I thought that was really interesting, right? So he's obviously thinking this through really deeply. And if you're a thinker, right, I'm looking at this team, and there isn't a talent issue. And for me, there's a personality issue that's really reducing. We need the personality and the final 10% belief to say, we belong here, this is what we are, the bar is raised, and we are no longer interested in just qualifying for the Champions League. We're going to be judged on whether we win the league or not. I know many pundits have said it's been 10 years since Arsenal won the league. I don't think Arsenal were ever in a position to win the league with Denilson and Bentner and all these players that were, promising players when they were young, but they were what I call the make-do era. We're now in a situation where our revenues are strong, TV revenues are going up, we're positioned well, and he's got to think intelligently about how he builds the squad, supplements the players that we have, and keeps players in the squad. I think historically we've kept people too long that were never going to reach the standard. So he's got a decision. We all think about buying, but he's also, what's he going to do to keep the squad hungry? Keeping players too long will not benefit the competition and the solidarity amongst the group. So he has got to think intelligently about how he adds. And for me, what I would do, I would think about how other people would view the signings. And yes, if he were to buy a different goalkeeper, if he has decided Szczesny goes, then he's got to be a world-class goalkeeper. If we are going to buy a central midfielder to rival Coquelin or play with Coquelin, it's got to be a world-class centre midfielder. And then if we are going to buy a forward, it's got to be a mobile, devastating, pacey forward. It's going to add to the group with a bit of physicality. And once we add these things, we're setting new challenges for our opposition. If we add so-so nearly players, all we're doing is adding to our wage bill and adding more of the same. So I think he has got to think very intelligently about how we add. I wouldn't add another centre half. I think we've got 4 good centre halves. I think we've got 2 good ones at the top level, and we're building 2 others. And I'd just like to see him add a little bit of devastation and fear factor to our group. And then if we can add that on top of the new belief that we got yesterday, I think he's got a great chance for the next 2 years.
Excellent. And actually, talking of signings, we did record a sort of bonus podcast by mistake. We weren't really sure we were recording, but we recorded a bonus podcast where we talked about, between the 3 of us, who we'd like to sign and who we should get in and who should leave. So hopefully that'll be edited soon and we can release that over the next couple of weeks, and you can listen to it in the off season. But obviously, if you follow us on Twitter, we'll let you know exactly when that comes out. But in the meantime, that's the end of the listeners' questions for now. But I believe James wants to make an announcement. I must stress that neither I nor Clive have a clue what he's going to say. This is highly irregular, but as he's submitted a proper formal application in writing, then I shall let it go. The stage is yours, James.
Yeah, I broke those crayons, putting it down as well. I broke them, mate. But anyway, just quick, you know, a lot of us have a few words about pundits, a lot of us have a few words about journalists. I'm going to go for a journalist. The man's name, you know, from one Italian to another, Mr. Tancredi Palmieri. On the 9th of July, 2014, Tancredi Palmieri put out a tweet that said, "Oh, Arsenal have just paid 38 million for Sanchez. Barcelona have won the lottery." On the 30th of May, 2015, he has scored one of the best FA Cup goals ever. He played 52 games, got 25 goals and 13 assists and 4 goals in 3 games at Wembley, and he won 2 trophies in his first season. So, vaffanculo to Mr. Tancredi Palmieri. That's all I'm going to say.
Well said, yeah. It sounds like a bit of a faccia di merda. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, that's true. I mean, you know, Sanchez, I mean, what a first season. I think Sky did a comparison a couple of months ago. I can't even remember who was on it now, but they were comparing him to other players' first seasons and at Arsenal, and it's right up there with one of Thierry's. I think Thierry's first season, I think it's better than Bergkamp's. I mean, 25 goals and 13 assists in your first season, not just the first season for Arsenal, but the first season in the Premier League, coming from a foreign league. It's just incredible. And from this point, when he really gets into the league, he could even increase that. So, you know, the 38 million, whatever we paid for him, looks like an absolute bargain now.
We're definitely going to miss him at the start with that Copa America stuff.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to miss him, but hopefully, you know, we got something there and we got other things lined up.
I think with Sanchez, I think it's the absolute influence he's had on the rest of the squad.
Yeah.
Everyone's looked at him and said, okay, you cost 32, 35 million, yet you want to train longer, you're in the gym longer, you run more miles than I do on the pitch. And I think he's affected our game more than any player since Thierry Henry, to be honest, and Vieira. I think he's influenced us massively. And if you're looking at a sort of a byline for progression this year, our progression has been our competitiveness in big games. I think a lot of that is down to Alexis Sanchez. And if you think back, we drew 1-1 with Spurs at home? And Wenger chose to rest him for that game. Thinking about now, it just absolutely feels ludicrous. I mean, we don't know what could have happened. He could have been injured or whatever. But, you know, our issue is, you know, what we're going to do when he's not available, because he's absolutely crucial to how we play. I think at the start of next year, players like Welbeck, for example, will be crucial at the start of the season because Sanchez won't be there. He won't be fit. He won't be ready. Yeah. And players like Welbeck, say Chamberlain, Walcott, they will be crucial. And I think we'll all buy somebody else to add to that pacey group. So yeah, that's going to be the start of next year, but I'm sure we'll do that in later pods.
Yeah, we will. And I think the the fact that we will miss him when he's not there, but I'm actually not that worried because, first of all, Wenger might buy another attacking player in the summer, who can slot him when he's not available. But even if he doesn't, we've got such a depth of squad now. You can swap him over with Oxlade-Chamberlain. You can put Ozil on one side, Ramsey on the other. I mean, we got people that can score goals all over the pitch. So I'm not panicking.
We haven't even seen Gnabry much this season, and you know how talented he can be.
Well, exactly.
He can slot there on the left or on the right.
Exactly.
Loads of them.
Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there because we've gone over time. But just to say to our listeners that next season we're only going to be broadcasting on this YouTube channel, which is the Gooner Ramble channel, and we parted company with Arsenal Fan TV. So this is a Gooner Ramble podcast, and next season we'll be on this channel, iTunes channel as well. Probably going to be on Instagram, Pinterest, everything you can possibly think of. But we won't be on any Arsenal Fan TV channels. So thanks for listening. And if you want to hear us again, you're going to have to subscribe to this YouTube channel rather than any other. So please do that. So that was a Gooner Ramble podcast with Jasper, James, and Clive. And we hope you all sleep very well tonight. Goodbye.
Au revoir.